Hello and welcome to Jenny's Test Kitchen. Today we'll be making the buttermilk marinated roast chicken from Samin Nosrat's Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat. You can find this by going to Netflix or going to YouTube, where they've actually made this one of the showcase recipes for the show. It's a super easy recipe, so I think a really good one to start off this series of kind of easy or how to cook recipes. But I highly recommend trying this one out if you're interested in the show or interested in the book itself. Let's get into it. I might actually do a series on cookbooks that are really good for those starting out cooking, and they actually want to learn how to cook well. Because I think there's a lot of Instagram videos that give you like very basic recipes and stuff, but if you want to know like the secrets of what will make your food stand out, there are some books that are amazing, and this is one of them. I think How to Eat by Nigella is also another one. Mary Berry has really quite a lot of them. Gordon Ramsay has like a masterclass one, but this really actually opened my eyes to quite a lot. If anyone's seen her Netflix series, you'll know what I mean. But basically she breaks down like the four main components of what you need to have great food. She's the most gorgeous, lovely woman in the world, so charismatic, and this really comes out in her books as well. And these books are just like absolutely gorgeous with like the most lovely illustrations, and everything is broken down so well. Yeah, it's gorgeous, like it's great. I actually had this bought for me as a present during lockdown, and it's not done me wrong so far. But what we'll be making today is actually her buttermilk roasted chicken, which looks like an insane recipe for 3 ingredients. But what I quite like about Samin Nosrat is that she really breaks everything down so well. She will tell you where in the oven you need to have it. She'll give you variations. So I have the chicken right here. She says 1.6 to 1.8 kilogram chicken, so she's really clear. I actually have like a bit of a bigger chicken. We've got 1.798, so on the bigger side, but that's fine. And I do not have buttermilk, so we're going to go to Waitrose now and see if we can get some. But if we don't have buttermilk, we can use yogurt or creme fraiche, so it's fine. It's basically about getting that acid in there. So yeah, so we'll see how this works out, but I've got high hopes. Ah, look at me walking in here so full of hope. Okay, so this is a bit of a disaster. I was so disappointed here. I'm looking up and down. I cannot see any buttermilk anywhere. For those who don't know, it's usually kept sort of between the cream and the yogurt. I think it is classed as yogurt in this country. It might be classed as milk or cream in America. I'm not entirely sure, but it is usually kept with the yogurt in most shops here, and there was just none on this day, which is a bit of a shame. So I had to make do with Greek yogurt, which, as we know from the variations on the recipe, is not the biggest disaster. So back to it. I've gone for the yogurt. I've got a little bowl here, and the first instruction in the recipe is to actually cut off the wingtips and save it for stock. So I'll do that. I'll put it in the bowl. In the recipe she actually uses a bag, but I don't particularly want to use a bag. I'll just cover it up with cling film. But the first step is to actually season the whole chicken with salt first. So what I'll do is I'll season it with salt, leave it for 30 minutes while I have my lunch, which is the jacket potato in the microwave that you can hear. Don't worry, I do not finish it in the microwave, I finish it in the oven. And then we'll come back to it after lunch, give it a good marinade, and then we'll get roasting tonight. Okay, if I was going to have any criticism of this recipe, it would be this section. I hate separating parts of the chicken before it's cooked. It's so unwieldy. It's probably because the good knives that I do have, I don't want to be damaging them on chicken bones, and the other knives are just so terrible. So you'll see here that I really struggled with this. I referred to the recipe partway through my struggle, and it literally just says remove the wingtips. I also referred to the YouTube video at some point as well, and it again doesn't really provide much solace for anyone who's not very familiar in butchery of this kind. It's something that I've never really become very comfortable with. It's something that I really, really struggle with. I feel like I'm never really hacking away at the right type of bone or cartilage or whatever it is that you're supposed to be messing around with. But if anyone has any tips on how to do this properly, please let me know, because it's something that I really, really struggle with every time I come to do any sort of kind of butchery on a chicken before I cook it. Afterwards, I'm absolutely happy, but before I cook it, I really struggle, and it's probably the one criticism I have, because everything else she's so thorough in her instructions, but with this particular part, it's just sort of like, oh yeah, cut off the wingtips. How do I do that? I have no experience, Samin. Please help. And yeah, as you can see, I really made a bit of a meal of this. It's just not going well for me. Again, because I watched the show, I use this thing called kosher salt, which, like so many of you will be like, of course she uses kosher salt. I think it's such a common thing to use, but before I actually watched Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat, I'd never even heard of it. But basically it's to do with the size of the crystals. They just work so much better for cooking, and I have found that it's just so much easier to use. So I have a little salt pig that I use, and it's just really easy to just grab and go for it. So that's what I'm going to do. I actually once saw a video with Gordon Ramsay, and he said that he never seasons chicken like this, because he said it's basically like there's no point, because the salt will never infuse through the skin. I found that that's not entirely true. Basically, as long as I do it like this, the meat is super supple and juicy afterwards, so I always try and find some time to do it. I also remember in the programme, Samin says that she basically like will buy chicken and then season it straight away, because the longer you have salt on it, as long as it's not for like 48 hours or whatever, the longer you have it, the better it is. So I've just rubbed it all in, made sure it's in the skin, and I'll leave that for like 30 minutes. I'll just have my lunch. The next instruction says that I need to stir 2 tablespoons of kosher salt into the buttermilk to dissolve. So I'll do that while the chicken is sitting. I'm super lazy, so if there's ever an opportunity to not use another container, I will. But I do recognise that I probably should have put this in another bowl, because this will definitely not stir evenly, but you live and learn. This pot is also the perfect amount for the recipe, which is really good. Okay, I've had my lunch and I think it's ready to get some marinade on this. So I don't know if you can see this, but the chicken is looking a bit more shiny, whereas it was very grainy before. The buttermilk has had salt, well, I say buttermilk, the yogurt, sorry, has had salt stirred into it. And we're gonna chuck the whole thing in there. It seems excessive, but fine. And then I'm gonna kind of mix it around, cover it, and put it in the fridge. The recipe says between 8 and 24 hours. We're gonna go for 8 because I'm making it for dinner tonight. Not sure. The purpose of the yogurt is really a few things. It's to bring in a bit of fat, and it's also to bring in the essential acid. There are no other ingredients. This is it. Everything here, that's all that's going in the oven for this. So you really need to bring in the fat from here, and also a bit of the chicken skin as well, but sure. The acid needs to come from here, and the heat is going to come from the oven, and the salt is also has been incorporated into both. So we really need to make sure that we give ourselves as much insurance as possible when it comes to taking that extra step with the yogurt. I'm just going to make sure I get the little bits. I always think yogurt looks so delicious, and then that first bite is always just, I don't know, it's just a bit disappointing. I like yogurt, but it's not the one, you know. But it does make for a delicious marinade. Honestly, like, if you're ever wondering how to get a bit more flavour into chicken, and you've literally just got some like chicken breasts in the fridge and you don't know what to do, at lunchtime, take them out the fridge, put them in some yogurt with a bit of lemon, a bit of garlic, and you honestly can't really go wrong. Oh, crikey, what a noise. So you just basically want to make sure that this whole chicken is covered in this salty, acidic marinade. I mean, I don't really mind how this feels. It does feel pretty intense. It's pretty, I mean, the noises that are coming off this are just crikey. Okay, so I think that's good. I think basically you just need to make sure that there's some yogurt in that cavity there. So I'm just gonna make sure it's, and then I'm gonna cover that up. Just scrape as much as I can off my hands. Cover that up, put it in the fridge, and then tonight I'm gonna take it out and we'll cook it. Okay, so the chicken has been resting and it's supposed to have come up to room temperature. Now, I wouldn't say that that is room temperature, but it's been out for an hour and I don't really want to leave a full damn chicken out for more than an hour. So the recipe book says basically remove from the plastic bag and scrape off as much buttermilk as you can without being obsessive. So I'm essentially, I mean, this is, it's gonna be messy, okay. Ooh, crikey. So I've literally just done this with my hands before. But there's like literally no way that you can guarantee that you're gonna get all that off. I think it's basically so that you just don't end up with like bits of burnt yogurt all over the chicken skin. This is gonna be great. If you are squeamish in any way, I would not recommend this recipe. Otherwise, it's great. And I would say that it's like a really good place to start if you just like have no idea how to even begin with roasting a chicken. I always thought that like roasting a chicken is like the easiest roast. I'm not very confident with like beef or lamb. Like I can slow roast lamb, sure, but I don't really know where to start with most of the things apart from chicken. And I just think that this is a great recipe for that. So, okay. So we got the chicken, and the next instructions say that we need to tightly tie together the legs of the chicken with a piece of butcher's twine. This just could be me, but I'm not messing around with butcher's twine in my bloody kitchen. Like, it's just not happening. So I'm not gonna do that. Every chicken I've roasted without tying the legs together has ended up completely fine. So I don't think we'll be doing that today, guys. And then the next bit is, it's really, really specific about where you need to put it in the oven. So I've been heating that oven up to 220 degrees Celsius. And the rack is at the center of the oven, and my oven is a bit not very reliable when it comes to temperatures. So we'll see how it does, but basically it says slide the pan all the way to the back of the oven on the center rack, rotate the pan so that the legs are pointing towards the rear left corner and the breast is pointing towards the center of the oven. So we're kind of going to have it in like that sort of formation. And then after about 20 minutes, we're going to bring that heat down to 200 degrees. We're going to continue roasting, and then we're going to move it so that the legs are facing that way. So I hope that that's good. And then we're going to continue cooking for 30 minutes. And then I'll test the temperature with a thermometer because I just want to know that we're cooking it right. But yeah, that's where we're up to. And I've got yogurt all over the counter. Don't worry, I will wash this properly. Try and get the remnants up properly. So that's going to go in, and we'll see how this looks, how this chicken looks. It's at this point that I take out the chicken and I test it in the thickest part of the breast with a digital thermometer. I'm looking for a reading of 79 degrees Celsius or above here, just for safe eating and making sure that we've got it to the right temperature. Oftentimes you can have cooked chicken in the legs or the outer part of the breast, but it can still be like absolutely raw in the inside. My oven is not the most reliable, as I said earlier, so I do always tend to cook with a thermometer, especially if it's meat like chicken, but don't feel like you have to do this. You can always just cut into the breast and check that it's not pink. How is it?
Want a D drumstick?
Yeah. How is it?
I'll give you some skin now. Oh, good God. It's nice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I love me some chicken.
As you can see, that got a really good reception that night. It was a really juicy chicken, a lovely midweek dinner, and something really chilled out and relaxing about making that chicken as well. Just something really simple. I highly recommend you go and check out that recipe. Please do comment below any recipes you want me to try out, and don't forget to like and subscribe too. So hopefully see you soon. Bye!